Camille, do you want
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the CEC 15 business meeting. It is April 12th, 2022, and I am Camille Casaretti, the president of CEC 15. The time is now 6:34, and I will hand the floor over to Antonia to call the roll.
Okay. First, I just want to introduce the interpreters. I just want to allow them the space to introduce themselves and also remind everyone to sign the attendance sheet that is linked in the chat. So interpreters, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sandra Perez, and I'm going to be one of the Spanish interpreters with my partner Alejandro. Para interpretación en español, por favor marquen el 347-966-4114 e ingresen el PIN 550-582-878, símbolo numeral. Nuevamente, para interpretación en español, por favor marquen desde su teléfono el número 347-966-4114 e ingresen el número PIN 550-582-878, símbolo numeral. Si quieren escuchar el audio en español, pero prefieren permanecer en esta sección de Zoom para ver la audiencia en su computadora, por favor, silencien la computadora y el volumen y marquen la línea de la conferencia en español en su teléfono. Una vez más, la línea de la conferencia en español es 347-966-4114 e ingresen el número PIN 550-582-878, símbolo numeral. Gracias. Thank you.
Okay. Next interpreter.
Hi, good evening. My name is Eddie Lau. I am one of the Mandarin interpreters, and the following instruction will be made in Mandarin. 如果你想收听中文翻译请输入电话号码34796641114，并输入PIN号码624924806，然后按井字。如果你想收听翻译，同时留在这个 Zoom 会议室，以便在电脑上收听会议，请把你的电脑和麦克风都调到静音，然后在你的手机上按进会议专线。重复一次，电话号码34796641114，然后按PIN号码624924806，然后按井字。This is the end of the Mandarin announcement. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will call the roll. Camille Casaretti.
Present.
Antonia Ferraro. Yes, I'm here. Tia Shellsteed.
Present.
Vincent Liu. I know he's here. Vincent?
Yep, here.
Okay. Nana Poku Ajakum has asked for an excused absence tonight. Alfred DeIngenis. Is Alfred here? I didn't see him. Joseph Alexander. Ivan Banda.
Present.
Nancy Randall.
Here.
Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka.
Here.
Nakia Muhasa Brown. Nakia Muhasa Brown. Doesn't seem like she's here. And Jared Moser. Does anybody see Jared? I don't think he's here. Okay, well, maybe some people will come later. We do have quorum. There is Camille, do you want to talk about amending the agenda?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that because Nana is not here with us tonight, he was planning to report on the Citywide Council on Special Education conference that he had attended recently. So we're going to move that over to the April 26th calendar meeting. And I want to make some space to acknowledge what happened today in Sunset Park. And so there's a number of people here who are able to talk to us. Superintendent Scott is here, and we have Executive Superintendent Watts. Craig Spencer, who is the co-president of the District 75 CEC, is also here. And we have the DOE Senior Director of Safety, Mark Rampersant, who is with us tonight. So I want to make sure that everybody is okay with taking some space to have this conversation. So is that okay?
I'll
We
make a
can do
motion
that.
to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nancy. So all in favor?
Should I do a roll call vote again?
Sure.
Okay, Camille.
I agree to amend the agenda.
Okay, Antonia, yes, I approve of amending the agenda. Tia,
Approve.
Vincent,
Approve.
let's see, Yvonne,
Yes, I approve.
Nancy,
Approve.
Vanessa?
Approve.
And that's it, I believe. Okay. All right.
Okay, great. Nakia is saying that she's having trouble getting in. So
Okay.
why don't you move on to the vote on the minutes, and I will try to get her the link.
Okay, so this was a draft of the minutes from the special session last week. Did everybody read it? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. And I will second the motion. Okay, and
Antonia, can you share the minute?
can you, they should be shared. Meaning you don't have access to the minutes, meaning how do you want me to, who do you want me to share? And how do you want me to share it? I think that they have been shared with all of the council members and anyone on the internet with this link. I think it's, do you want me to put a link? To
Oh
the
yeah, can you put in a link to this
Okay.
to the chat? I'll scan to.
Listen, they were sent out to the public with the agenda. And I believe they're posted on the CEC15 calendar.
Okay, so they're, okay, the link is in the chat. All right, let's see. So can we just adopt the minutes formally, or do we need to do another roll call?
We can adopt the minutes if there are no.
Are there any objections to adopting the minutes? All right, sounds like the minutes have been adopted.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. So again, welcome everyone. Welcome to the CEC15 business meeting. Thank you for coming this evening. So we're coming together tonight after a pretty frightening day that no one could have imagined. This morning at the 25th Street and 36th Street subway stations in Sunset Park, a shooter left multiple people wounded, including a 17-year-old child. Smoke bombs and detonated devices were found on the platform, and the area has basically been shut down all day. Police had advised everyone to avoid the areas between 3rd Avenue and 5th Avenue, and from 20th Street to 40th Street while they searched for the shooter. As far as I know, that person has not been located at this time. If you have any information to report about this crime, please call 311. Out of an abundance of caution, District 15 schools, especially those in the surrounding areas, were advised to shelter in. All schools continued their lessons as usual, but no one was allowed to enter or leave the building until mostly dismissal time. So this left many of our families worried about what would happen at pickup. But thanks to our school leaders and district administrators, multiple communications of very calming reports came throughout the day. The NYPD also helped to get school buses to District 75 sites in the area. So everyone did what was necessary to keep our school communities safe throughout this terrible situation, ensuring that children's needs were first and offering support to anyone who needed it. We've received numerous phone calls and emails throughout the day from all over the city, sending blessings to our community. And we will be praying for all of the victims and their families, many of whom were on their way to work or school. Some of our children were on that train and managed to actually survive the situation and get to school. So our community is going to need a lot of support. Tragedies like these are becoming a harsh reality of life in our city. Please make sure to talk to your children about gun violence and travel safety, and we will do what we can on our end. Just yesterday, I was in a meeting with Brooklyn North CEC presidents, with Executive Superintendent Watts, and we were discussing organizing a day against violence and adding information on travel safety and gun violence to the curriculum. So let's continue coming together as a community to support one another and protect each other. We cannot let fear paralyze us, even when it's this scary. Our schools have a lot of mental health resources available for students and for families. So if you need help, just reach out. Yes, 261 shared some really valuable resources to help families check in with their children. And I can drop that in the chat or ask if someone else could please do that. We've invited Superintendent Stop and Executive and Professor from the District 75 Council to speak tonight about next steps for our community. And we are grateful to also have the DOE Security Director, Mark Ampersand, with us here tonight. So I am going to turn the floor over to Mark because I know he is on a tight schedule and really appreciate the time. So thank you so much. Mr. Rampersand, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Are you able to hear me clearly?
We can hear you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to share this space with you. As you said, this is a terrible, terrible day for all of us. And I'm very happy to hear you sort of speak so eloquently about the steps that our schools took to ensure that our young people were safe. Each and every one of our schools followed the guidance and the directives from the NYPD, our partners in the School Safety Division, who quickly and swiftly dove into action. I apologize if you could hear my background. I'm going to try to mute that. I'm actually on another CEC 5 meeting with the Chancellor and others, so I apologize for that. So this unfortunate incident transpires early this morning. Information starts to flow through the district pretty swiftly. School safety agents received notification from the School Safety Division, as well the NYPD, who were aggressively searching for this violator. Our schools are trained in emergency protocols, and I am very happy to hear you mention the appropriate protocol in shelter in, because if I can just tell you how many times I heard the word lockdown today, I was pulling the hair out of my head. Well, I don't have hair, but you get where I'm going. And just listening to people say the school's in a lockdown, school's in a lockdown. Nope, school's in a shelter in. And what that really allow our schools to do is continue to have business as usual gym, and so forth and so on. And you're correct, not going outside. It really was the advice of our partners in the NYPD, who we worked in lockstep with today to ensure that all of our young people and our staff were safe. We were urging parents, and as much as parents were reaching out to schools and they wanted to go up to those schools, we would try to encourage parents to stay out of the way and allow our first responders to do the job. Right? The more people in the area, the tougher it is for them to do the job. As well, this person had not been captured yet, right? And so, going to the school and trying to gain access, potentially an open door means access to the bad guy into the building, right? And so our schools did a great job, and we had people reach out, go and knock on doors to try to gain access, and our principals stood fast and did not allow access to the building. So we worked with our partners in the school safety division to ensure that our buses can transition through the area safely and without interruption. They were aware that our District 75 students who take buses had to transition, in some cases a little earlier. So they ensured us that they would get buses through in a timely fashion. And for our high schoolers who normally took the train, we worked to have shuttle buses take them out of the area where they continue to transition home for those who relied on those trains to get home. And so I am happy to hear that principals were reaching out to families and giving updates around the safety and the conditions in the school building. We encourage schools to do so, but we also encourage schools to, as best they possibly can, stay away from the rumors and stay away from people embellishing on what had transpired. We were only focused on the facts, and we intentionally asked that schools stayed away from any particulars. There was just a police emergency in the area, and the schools were placed on a shelter-in as an abundance of caution. And this was not only in District 15, but a portion of District 20 as well. We had several calls with superintendents, updating them on what had transpired and what we were learning from the police department as well, the FBI and others, just to make sure that they were bestowing any rumors that were out there and any falsehoods that principals and other staff had heard. We do know that social media was back and forth, and folks were relying on what they heard in social media, and we get it, right? Because these things happen. And I appreciate all of the parents who supported the schools and trusted that the schools kept young people safe and listened to the first responders by sheltering in, and parents did not come to the schools. So we thank you for that and in trusting in our schools. It was a trying day. The day is still going on. Some of the commitments we got from the police department and school safety is that there will still be a presence in the area. The heightened focus will be in the area, not necessarily in the schools per se, but for those schools that are concerned and experiencing some anxiety as a result of what transpired, we will get additional school safety agents to patrol the area, stop in and check with the principals. But for those schools that are where we have students who may have experienced or witnessed the unfortunate incident, if you could reach directly to the superintendent or the executive superintendents, we will send counselors to those schools to support those young people. So I appreciate the opportunity to be before you. I do have a very limited time that I could be before you today. I don't want them to call my name on the other meeting, which was already pre-scheduled, but I'll stay for a couple of questions. I'm gonna say upfront, full transparency. I can't speak for the NYPD's next steps. I can't speak specifically to the incident as it is still under investigation. And the plan for tomorrow, once we learn more particulars, I can share with the superintendent and executive superintendents, and they can share with the CEC. So again, I appreciate sharing this space with you, and I could take one or two questions.
Thank you so much. I wasn't even expecting time for questions, but so that's amazing. I'll just go off of what's in the chat right now from one of our council members, Yvonne Banda. He wrote, some members of the community are asking if tomorrow D15 schools will be open normally.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, we're New Yorkers, we're resilient. right? And we have the best police force in the country, and they are telling us business as usual. They are optimistic. They are going to catch this individual. This incident transpired, and there were lots of cell phone camera footage taken. Unfortunately, right, in the time of a crisis, people are recording things, but we are business as usual tomorrow. We're going to open our doors. We're going to welcome our young people. We are going to show them love as they transition in. We are going to keep our eyes on schools. We're going to have school safety agents pop in and check on schools just to do a temperature check to make sure that we're okay. We are going to listen to our partners in the NYPD as it relates to open recess during lunchtime and others, just to make sure that we are doing what their guidance recommends for us to do. But yes, we are open tomorrow. So thank you for that question.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. Someone wrote, is there a term such as a lockdown? Yes, there is. We will share with everybody the list of all of the security and safety language. I think that there's a flyer on the DOE website. I feel like I've seen that before. And so we can share that by email with everybody.
So for the CEC, just as a point of clarity, not only are there there's guiding documents on, we also offer emergency readiness training for parents so that you are well aware of the training procedures that schools receive. And you know the difference between a lockdown, a shelter in, evacuation, or a hold, right? And it is important that you understand these. So when young people say, well, outside something happened and my school went into a lockdown, you can correct young people by saying, if it happened outside, then your school was in a shelter in, right? So we do training for parents, and it's important that the parents participate in those trainings, and we have a wealth of documentation that we can provide for the CEC that you can definitely share with parents. So I'll be more than happy to forward that information for you.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that we'll be having a safety meeting any day now. And then Craig Spencer, our co-president from the CEC15 CEC, is asking if you're available to attend his meeting tomorrow evening, because they have 8 schools here in District 15. Karen from the Brooklyn High School of the Arts, co-president, is asking if there is going to be a shelter in tomorrow at schools. I guess as a precaution. No shelter in.
I appreciate the question. And listen, we sheltered in today out of an abundance of caution at the direction of our partners in the NYPD, right? If the NYPD saw the need to continue to keep us in shelter in, they would have never lifted it. So they're not going to lift us and then put us back in a shelter in. I pray tomorrow we don't have to go into a shelter in because something else happens. But as it stands right now, there is no plan to shelter schools in tomorrow.
Okay, great. Seeing no other questions in the chat, I will just say thank you so much. We appreciate you. Stay safe and send our regards to the Chancellor.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to be before you. Have a great night.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much. Anita, would you like to speak next? I know things have been pretty crazy today, but you have been in communication with me all day long, and I appreciate that. And I've been trying to let everybody know, and we sent this long message to the
So thank you, Camille. I would
as well.
be happy to speak right now. So first of all, the chronology of the day was I was in a meeting. Karen and I were in a meeting together when all of this broke, and we got off the meeting, and I immediately, reflecting on what NYPD was saying and what was being done, we sent an email to every school in the district that said, please, every school, no matter where you are in D15, because we had no real sense of where this alleged person was. We want everybody in the building safe. The safest place for kids is to be in their school with their teachers. We had an interesting situation in that MS 447 had kids who had started a walking trip, And we brought in them back, and there were 160 kids out, and we brought them back between the high school and the middle school. We brought them back. We sheltered in. Every school immediately sheltered in. We called every single school to confirm that they had gotten the email that they were sheltered in, and we checked to make sure that they were following the protocols, which they followed brilliantly. We had a few parents who called or came to the school concerned and wanted to take their children. And our protocol was we did not allow anyone to leave as aligns with the protocol. In fact, I spoke to a parent on the phone, and I have to say she was very gracious once I explained the protocol to her. Very gracious. In addition, we thought about what the needs of the children would be in a shelter in. So for example, there are children who go out to lunch. So we wanted to ensure that there would be sufficient food, not only for the children, but also for the adult staff in the building, because they could not leave to go out to lunch and they couldn't get deliveries. So we called on Meredith Keeley, who is a wonderful, wonderful food head, who is amazing and who comes to our DLT meetings, and immediately reached out to all of the schools and the school food staff to ensure that not only would the children be provided with lunch, but there would be food available if adults wanted it. And that should it run longer than we thought, thank God it didn't have to, there would be snacks available as well. We wanted to make sure that it was as normal a day as possible without as much inconvenience. All of our kids were well taken care of. Our schools were well taken care of. You have to remember that close to the action, and one of the last schools to be out of shelter in was the pre-K center on 25th Street, both pre-K centers. And I have to tell you that on the news, parents commented about how well protected and well cared for their children were, and we're very grateful for that. I want to give kudos to my colleague superintendents who wrote to me and asked me if there was anything I needed and who cared. Executive Superintendent Watts, who reached out throughout the day. But as soon as I wrote to the schools to say they were sheltering in, I also wrote to Camille and to the CEC because I wanted you to know what was going on. And we made sure that it was very clear that this was from an abundance of caution. We did not want kids out in the street. We did not want parents running to the school to get their kids. Everything was meticulously done. We were supposed to have a regular principals conference. We did what we call our office hours, where we did not take the principals out of the work they were doing at their schools, but rather gave them the opportunity to log on, ask questions, get updates. We had 2 meetings with Deputy Chancellor Desmond Blackburn, Mr. Rampersant, several other members of the senior leadership team, where they kept us abreast of what was going on and what the protocols were, asked us if what we needed, and gave information. We followed up carefully. We were meticulous. I cannot tell you how amazing our principals were. They were just phenomenal. And Mr. Rampersant alluded to that. We had gradually we were informed that certain schools could leave shelter in, and we then sent out an email. We were very meticulous, saying which schools could stay in and which schools had to stay in and which schools could now dismiss or end the shelter in. And by the time dismissal arrived, all of our students were out of shelter in. The chancellor came to PS 24. And the funny story is that when he came, for the minute that he came, Maria Diaz was walking some children home, and she came running back to the school to see the chancellor. So she was very grateful. It was a lovely meeting. But there was this clear support from the central office, from the executive superintendent, BCO, and from all of us, from every division. we did outreach to the Office of Busing. In fact, I have to say, one of the things I'm proudest of was as we were sheltering in, we made calls to D75 schools to make sure that they were aware of what was going on. So Brenda called Lillian Ratchkiss and Aileen Mitchell, who has part of PS53 in her school, and Michael Perlberg, who has another part of 53. They checked with everybody to make sure that everybody was aware of what was going on. We all followed the protocol. All of our children were safe. And thank God, tomorrow will be a new day.
Yes, thank God. Does anybody have any questions for Anita? She was so nice to come on the call tonight. Paulette just wrote in the chat, will parents who choose to keep kids home because they feel it's a safer option be penalized for attendance?
I can't honestly give you an answer, but if it's a regular day, it's a regular attendance day. So my guess is yes. I know that this is difficult,
Yeah.
but my guess is yes.
I was going to say, this might be a good time to talk about a mental health day. But we also don't want to scare, we don't want to scare the children either. The schools are definitely a safe place. So maybe it would give the family some comfort to escort the child to school if they typically travel by themselves, or I always think it's a good idea to travel in groups. So if your child is traveling alone, that would definitely be a time to start finding some friends for them to travel with.
I do want to say that we have in place, we had some today, we will have more tomorrow. Any school that had any children who had any contact or any connection to what happened, there was guidance support throughout the day today. There will be even more mental health support tomorrow. The UFT is going to send counselors for teachers or adults who might be concerned as well, and just to help support the children through the teaching. And we want you to know that, like Camille said, the schools are the safest place for your children to be. And of course, support for the teachers. And all of our schools have been doing today their restorative justice work. They've been talking to the kids in a very gentle manner. There are some of our kids who literally were on the train, a couple of them, and they actually talked to the police, which was amazing. And also, they got the support they needed. Our children were given what they needed. There was in no shape or form is there going to be anything that penalizes a child in any shape or form, or a teacher in any shape or form. What we are trying to do is to help in a difficult situation. I have to tell you that I was a person who was in charge during 9/11. And so I knew that these are difficult times, but this was magnificently handled. And I have to shout out my team at the office, because everybody called schools, everybody kept reaching out to schools, schools kept calling us. We took calls from parents, schools took calls from parents. There was never a point where there wasn't a responsiveness to anybody. And so I'm extremely grateful for my team, and especially for the principals who worked so hard today. So thank you. And I have to shout out Maria Roca, who messaged me and told me what was going on. And I messaged her back and told her our schools were safe because she checked on them. So thank you, Maria.
Maria has been a longtime supporter of CEC15. She was the very first person that I met on my very first CEC meeting. So thank you for still being here. Just trying to continue looking at the chat, but why don't we check in with the Spanish and Mandarin lines to see if anybody has a question there. And Antonia, if you could drop the attendance link in the chat also.
This is the Mandarin interpreter speaking. There is no participant who needs to ask a question on the Mandarin line. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No question on the Spanish line.
Okay, great. Thank you. So with no other questions, I'll turn the floor over to Executive Superintendent Watts. Thank you so much for being here. Karen, go ahead.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. Good evening, everyone. Happy to be in community with District 15 this evening, given the day that we had today. I want to begin by saying that, my thoughts were with all of the victims all day as I heard more and more of what was coming out of the incident, such a tragedy. And then I felt sorry that some of our students had to witness that and, then go to school. But that was the best place for them to go because they were well supported in every one of the District 15 schools. And students had opportunities to, as Anita said, to be involved in talking about the incident and so on. So a horrible day, but we did get through it safely. All of the schools were doing the best that they can. I really want to also thank all of the principals and teachers and school-based team members for their efforts today to keep all of the students feeling safe until they could get home to their families and parents and loved ones. I also want to thank Anita and Superintendent Ross as well for the high schools in District 15 and their teams for working the phones all day long and really reaching out to schools and finding out if there were any needs and then addressing those needs. And also everyone at the borough office. Now we do have all of the guidance managers there, social workers and so on. And so they've been reaching out to schools today and they will continue to support tomorrow and Thursday and going forward. So there is a lot of personnel at the borough office that can support school-based team members to ensure that students' mental health, any mental health concerns are being addressed and to ensure that students continue to feel safe given this major disruption in their sense of safety today. So I also want to speak to the work that we were doing. Camille mentioned that I do meet monthly with the CEC presidents of Brooklyn North. And I look forward to that meeting because I get to really discuss the issues that are most important to parents across Brooklyn North. And something that has come up at meetings this year was the escalating violence, the gun violence. And so we've discussed how we can ensure that there is curriculum in our schools so that students have a space to discuss gun violence and violence of all types, etc. Recommendation was made to ensure that this was part of the advisory that was occurring in schools and so on. So I had sent that out to all principals across Brooklyn North. There are also various programs in different schools that are addressing gun violence, and we're trying to get more of those programs in more schools. And then we also have discussed having a day against violence. And so we had planned one session already with Mark Rampersant and CEC15 President Naquan McLean and others. And so we had another planning session for Thursday coming up. And we are going to plan a day where we'll invite parent leaders and parents. It's going to be an on-site day of against violence with workshops for parents to learn the difference between lockdown and sheltering and things like that, and to also hear the voices of parents. What can we do collectively to address the violence that's occurring in our city and how it's impacting our young people. So we want to ensure that on the education side, we have curriculum that we are using within our schools. Camille, I did look at the health curriculum. There are areas in the health curriculum that speak against violence and so on. And so working on that area, but also bringing awareness to, and having the parents be a part of that. Parent leaders and parents should come out and to the workshops that we will have on the Day Against Violence. So looking forward to that. So with that, I'm turning it over to you, Camille.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is a lot. You know, I'm sure everybody is just sort of holding their breath while we're having these conversations. But unfortunately, things are sort of moving in this direction. And that's why this conversation around gun violence has been happening in the Brooklyn North spaces, because it is not isolated to only one or two districts. And yeah, I mean, we just really need to have a lot of awareness. I go into the station myself all the time, and what I see is everybody on their phone, nobody looking around, nobody like seeing who's even next to them. And we're all guilty of it. And I think that, this is a pretty big wake-up call, and we all need to sort of get the message and start being more aware, more diligent, have these really challenging, important conversations with our children, because we need to look out for each other. And we're a community that does that. And so we're in a good space to have the foundation for this work. So guess what? I thank you so much for your leadership in this area, and looking forward to the Day Against Violence. And we will surely promote it throughout the district, and hope that many of our families will be able to attend. So thank you so much for coming on the call under the short notice and with such a long and upsetting day, but thank God things are where they are right now, and that we're all here together. So thank you so much. Craig, do you want to talk about what you were experiencing with the D75 Council today?
Oh, I didn't know I was gonna. Thank you so much. Greetings and blessings, and God bless, Allah bless all of you. Hope you and your families are well. I'm proud to be the co-president of the Citywide Council for District 75. And it's unfortunate we're here in this unfortunate circumstances, but as always, I want to recognize CEC15 under the leadership of Camille Casaretti, and how they look out for us. And also Superintendent Scott, thank you so much for reaching out to D75 schools. Before I go on, I need to recognize other D75 parent leadership besides Paulette Healy, District 20 and CCSE. We have our Brooklyn rep for President's Council, Ms. Camille Saunders. We have our treasurer, CCD75 treasurer, Christy Angel from Queens. We have CCD75 leader, Amy Ming Tsai, who's a co-leader of several committees and has been a council member as long as I have. Vice President Celia Green would have been here, but she has another meeting. So she's here in spirit, as well as the rest of my council members. Just to put it shortly, it took us a while, but we found out through Kettler's office that our schools were being taken care of, and the message was being passed down to our parents. Like I did mention in the chat, we do have 8 locations in the area of ranging from elementary school to high school, of different variations in terms of quote unquote disabilities. So obviously we have a part to play in this. I need to lift up that sometimes you don't hear District 75 parents much, so we want to make sure that we bridge this gap and make sure that all parents feel empowered regardless of the child that they send to school each morning. What we had learned was that like Mr. Ramperson said, the schools were adhering to NYPD guidelines, and we did get notice late middle afternoon, 2 p.m. or so, that the police were gonna buses was the main thing. Like buses is the main thing in terms of transportation for our kids, and just making sure our parents get that, because maybe they're not going to roll up right away. So it was just key that we get that communication was there. So we're glad that worked out. We look forward to, like I did mention, we do have our joint business calendar meeting tomorrow, which I'll drop the link in the chat. You're welcome to attend. This isn't the end of the situation. I look forward to that Day Against Violence. Also, we have Brooklyn Representative Aisha Husbands, who I believe one of her kids goes to school in Sunset Park, so she'll want to take part of that. And Camille, I'll talk to you offline, but all's well that sort of kind of ends well. I don't want to paint a broad brush, but I thank God everybody that we know of in this space is safe. We'll keep our ear on the ground if we know of anything different. That's why we have outreach in terms of President's Council, of the PA leadership on our schools, as well as, so we're going to galvanize our forces. We'll come to you guys. We'll work with you guys. And thank you so much for this opportunity, this space. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Everyone from the and glad to have you and have your voice, and thank you for advocating for our children. So I want to sincerely thank everyone for your support and your time tonight, supporting our school communities, and to our CEC15 hesitate if you updates for president's report, and then we can get into the rest of our business meeting. So we distributed our school liaison responsibilities for Nakia and
I think we lost Camille.
Yeah. I guess we did.
She'll probably call in like she
Yeah.
usually does.
Antonio, do you want to do?
I can just sort of move the agenda along. I can, I have a couple of notes from her that I could read. Whose hand is up? Somebody, oh, Paulette's hand is up.
I'm sorry, I'm back. Sorry about that. Crazy internet over here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to turn off your camera and then.
Sure.
Yes,
I will
we can
do
hear you.
that. Okay. So, so I was saying we redistributed our school liaison responsibilities when our 2 new members joined. So if anybody is having trouble connecting with your newly assigned schools, please let me know and I will make that connection. As you know, the state legislature finalized the budget and mayoral control was taken out. So yay, and that was much to do about our advocacy around that issue. We have some time to think about what changes we would like to see in the law to allow for more parent voice. I don't really see mayoral control going away. I do expect to see a lot of changes in the law that are going to help create more transparency and more accountability and more ways for parents to get involved and have heard in decision making. And then our advocacy around increases to state aid and universal childcare were successful. We have a lot more money in the school budget. And although the universal childcare did go through, there were some things not great. It does not include children of immigrant families. So, or undocumented families. So that was a big disappointment, but we will keep pushing for some equity there. Something that came up recently at the DLT meeting was that CEC15 does not have a teacher center. Many other districts do have this type of space for teacher support and professional development. So I think we should consider writing a resolution about this since we have space in CEC16. We could work with the UFT on the language for a resolution. So if anybody is interested, willing to help me draft something, please just let me know. And then at our last meeting, we passed a resolution to expand student Metro card usage, and that was sent to the DOE, but I heard right away from some families that children had received Saturday Metro cards just since we passed that resolution, so that's good news. We had a joint legislative meeting with President's Council at the end of March, and that went really well. There were a number of PTA and PA presidents that attended. I think all of the legislators in our district were there, and they were able to voice concerns and get some responses, and definitely gonna try to get some movement on the librarian situation. So that was a really great meeting. And then for our CEC members specifically, there is an important meeting on Thursday night regarding the C37 process. So it would be in your best interest to attend that because it involves the selection of the superintendent, and this will help you to better understand the process. So I noticed Antonia dropped a note about Paulette, but I'll just wish everybody a happy spring recess, celebrating these many holidays of rebirth, and it'll be great to spend some quality time with those we love and just, you know, give your kids a kiss and a hug. So thank you so much, everyone. Paulette, if you want to say a couple of words before we move forward on the agenda, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for that. Sorry, I just wanted to report out on behalf of Council Member Alexa Avelas. We did have our team on site at the start of the unfortunate event this morning, and we've been working with the MTA and with DOE in terms of navigating transportation deficits left because of the subway disruption. So there is additional shuttle bus service going on Fifth Avenue right now along the B63 route. Ferries are also free right now. So for those who would need to commute to the city and back, you know, we have our stop right there at Industry City. So please utilize that. That is also free of charge. Shuttle buses are free of charge. And on a personal note, since I have my D75 cohorts here, the CCSE has been pushing to reinstitute travel training, because our children in District 75 who are slightly older has had 2 years where they have not had travel training. And in a situation like today, there were quite a few that were kind of left stranded trying to figure out how to get home in alternative transportation. So some of them actually ended up taking a curb home because they could not figure out how to navigate the different changes that they would need to make in order to get home from their particular D75 site. So, you know, D75 Council, if you could stand with us and push the DOE in terms of making sure travel training gets implemented, if not now, then at least in the summer, so that we can better prepare our children for situations like this. And then also, I just wanted to put into the chat, I'm going to put in our council email. So for anyone who is experiencing any busing issues or transportation deficits or any challenges of those particular areas, please email us so that we can elevate it through our channels, through the various agencies that are coordinating with us. And that way we can get resolution faster. Thank you for the time, Camille. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know about all of that important travel information, especially. And thank you for letting us know about the curriculum for the D75 students for travel training. I think that would be a good policy to implement for all of our schools. It's a great idea. Okay, so I noticed that a number of our CEC members have arrived. Welcome, Joe Alexander and Alfred Diogenes and Nydia Brown, the first one to arrive. Okay, so next on our agenda is the election of a CEC15 secretary. So we have been looking to fill this role for a number of months now. Is anybody interested in the position of CEC15 secretary? So as you know, our minutes that have been behind schedule were assigned to individual members, and we are currently up to date on all of the current meeting minutes. And so today would be your only responsibility at this point. So anybody who has a title already on CEC may still take the role of secretary if they would like to give up their position, and or if you do not have a title, you are certainly welcome and encouraged to become our secretary. So do I have any? Oh, okay, I lost the.
All right, I assume she's going to jump back on at any minute. I'll just keep the meeting running. Is anybody interested in taking the position of secretary? Anybody at all? Okay, well, I guess the position continues to remain open. And we will continue to assign the minutes to various members of the council. Okay, I guess Camille's not back yet. Nancy, are you available to do an ad hoc diversity committee update?
Sure.
Great.
Hi, everybody. Our diversity committee met, our last meeting was in March, and we've been working on creating a small workshop series that will be held in May. So I will give you a little bit of information about that. We're partnering with Human Rights Watch, and they will do a workshop on Monday, May 9th, Monday, May 16th, and Monday, May 23rd. The first workshop on Monday, May 9th will be an overview of the human rights law. The second workshop on Monday, May 16th will be working with transgender and gender non-conforming persons. And the workshop on Monday, May 23rd will be human rights law and anti-Black racism and other forms of discrimination based on race and color. And we will be putting together a flyer and sending it out. This is a workshop that Human Rights Watch, they have a workshop series. And so this is very exciting that they're able to do this workshop series with us. It was through the superintendent's office that we were connected. Gina and Maggie connected us with Human Rights Watch. So this is very exciting. This is a partnership that the superintendent's office has had already. And so now the CEC will also be able to present this workshop. And I would say that's really the main update. So please stay alert for the flyer to come out, and please join us on May 9th, 16th, and 23rd.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. I guess next on the agenda, I'll give a legislative committee update. We were going to have an update from Nana, but he'll have to give it next time. So Camille kind of talked about this a little bit. We had a President's Council legislative meeting with electeds. It took place during the last week of the budget session. So we were very grateful that as many legislators were as able to give us their time as they could. We talked a lot about the library issue, universal after school, as well as universal childcare. People talked about the need for transitional aid. People were concerned about enrollment loss. And there was a very good sort of testimonial by the PTA president of PS 124, who spoke more broadly about the school struggling to meet basic needs, as the school has about 1/3 of their students live in temporary housing, and they receive new students weekly. So it's hard to keep up with the funding for all that new enrollment. It doesn't come in immediately. And the school is trying to coordinate Title I funded enrichments through nonprofits at the same time that they're trying to meet basic needs. And so the school washes children's clothes from time to time. The PTA raises money for things like socks and sweatshirts and sippy cups. And so we asked electeds to enact policies that help families meet basic needs, so schools don't have to do so much of that. The PTA president of 38 spoke about the need for funding to make up for enrollment loss and echoed the call for school librarians. So that sums up what happened at that event. I also attended Lincoln Wrestler's inauguration, which was a fun event a couple weekends ago. He had a group of students from 307 perform like a big cheerleading dance performance. And he had speakers that were really impressive, like Attorney General Letitia James. They had small focus groups on various issues, including education. I sat in on that focus group. The busing issue came up and I learned some interesting nuggets about that I didn't know. Apparently, it's hard to recruit bus drivers because the bus drivers have to pay to rent the vehicle that they then take the road test with, and renting that vehicle can cost like upwards of $2,000. Something I never knew. So it creates a problem recruiting enough bus drivers to serve all the needs of the city. I also learned from a parent in this focus group, because we were talking about transit so much, that the students who attend the New York Harbor School can't utilize the New York City ferry. They have to take transit to Lower Manhattan, and then there's a dedicated ferry from the tip of Manhattan to go to the school. But it's much faster if you lived, say, in Sunset Park or Red Hook or anywhere along the waterfront in Brooklyn, if you could just take that New York City ferry directly to the school. But it seems like the New York City Economic Development Group is responsible for that ferry. That ferry is not part of the MTA system. So students can't use their Metro card to access that ferry. And so the cost of the ferry is $275 each way. And over the course of a month, that's like an extra $100. And so we've been in contact with the principal of the New York City, of the New York Harbor School. They've been advocating heavily for this. They put out a press release. And so we're making our way through this issue, and we're trying to talk to the right people, and we're going to see if we can make this happen so that more students from Brooklyn who live on the waterfront, who is really, when this school was in its inception, that's who they had in mind, those children who lived on the waterfront, so that they could explore careers in that field. And so it would be nice if they had an easier path to that school. Also, I just want to highlight that the participatory budgeting voting season has ended, and now they're in the vote counting stage of participatory budgeting. And if you want to read about the projects, I can put the link in the chat. And that's all I have to report on. Is Camille back? Oh boy. All right, we have lost Camille. Old business. So I know that Camille's been working on getting these reimbursements in for the workshops. It seems that she put on the agenda for Alfred to give a little bit of a budget review on that. Alfred, are you available to talk about that? Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks, Antonia. We put in the paperwork. We actually met the deadline. Actually, we were a few minutes late on the deadline, but we met it. I think the biggest news is that we put in for the reimbursements of the workshops, and we have about $518 left over for another type of workshop that I know Camille is working on to arrange. We also used our budget to buy office supplies and material, and we're gearing up to meet in person if that becomes necessary. And that's about it with the budget. Other than those two expenditures and the hope of getting an administrative assistant at some point, I think that was the main points that were discussed last week. And that's the update.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for working on those reimbursements. I know it was a lot of work.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Nancy, do you want to give a Sunset Park PAR update?
Sure. As most of you know, I was on the PAR team in the subzone 3 of District 15. And Maddie Fox was the person who led that team. And now, as you know, she's leading a team in Sunset Park. And she invited me a few weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks at this point, to attend one of their meetings. It was their third or fourth meeting. And during that meeting, they were at the beginning of the PAR process. In subzone 3 was a 1.5-year process for those of us on the PAR team, let alone the CEC's work beforehand. So they were on their third or fourth meeting. So they're at the very beginning of this process of building the PAR team. There were about, I guess about 20 people and 15 people in the room. It was all women. And as was our PAR team, it was all women. And I think that has a lot to do with, oftentimes women are the ones doing the work of volunteering for educational events. But so what was fascinating is that many people on the Sunset Park PAR team speak predominantly Spanish or speak predominantly Chinese. And so they have interpreters in the room. And it was really beautiful to see the interpretation happening as somebody was speaking, the communication happening between two people in two different languages without them really sharing English between them, right? So one person is speaking Spanish and one person is speaking Chinese, and then the interpreters are interpreting and everybody's communicating. It was really beautiful to see, like the community basically building community in the room. And so they were working on their understandings of what education is. And we really, when we were forming our PAR team, it was really coming to have a shared language and a shared understanding of what is education, why do we care, why are we doing this, why are we interested, and what do we want to be able to gain from our community and from gather from our community, like the knowledge, understanding that we want to then turn around and, in their case, really create a new school. From where they were at that point, they were going to continue doing more community building before they start going out into the community and speaking with people. So I'm not sure exactly at what point that will happen, but I think they'll be getting to that point soon. And that's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Nancy. It appears we still don't have Camille.
Hi, Antonia.
Yeah.
So I'm communicating with Camille now.
Oh, great.
And yes, she is having trouble connecting, and she's going to do a hard reset to reboot her computer so that she can hop back on.
Okay.
That's the update, but she encourages us to press on.
Okay. So she's got on this resolution, on this on this agenda, a resolution on expansion of Title I funding. I think that that's really a work in progress. I think there's a note here that she's working with Arsenio Riley, who is actually on the call. And she's the D15 Title I chair. So actually, I would invite Arsenio, if she's still on the call, to just give us a flavor of what they're working on with this resolution.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to thank Camille for being like really taking this on right away when I brought it up at the last meeting. I brought up concerns about our own school, BCS, because we lost Title I funding. We don't have it next year. This was our grandfathered year. And we are, and also I think 442 just recently lost it in some other schools. And I know it was, a lot of it had to do with the diversity initiative, which is wonderful and not taking away, but like trying to figure out stopgaps or ways to ensure funding for these schools. Like for instance, our school's losing $300,000 or $400,000, which is going to salaries. And Camille looked up, I think like Staten Island and maybe Queens, and they have a different threshold. Right now, Brooklyn's threshold is 60%. So we're trying to lower the threshold for Title I. So essentially 60% of the families that go to the school have to qualify like either below the poverty line or free lunches. And there's different measurements for it. So yeah, she was working on advocating for more school funding because of the loss of Title I funding. I don't know if we're trying to like move the threshold in Brooklyn or allocate funds for schools that are losing it, but she's working on that. I don't hear you. Is that my phone or is it?
I was muted, sorry. So I see a document, but I don't know how far along you guys are in this process. So I don't want to read it or share it until I know you guys are comfortable with the draft.
I think you could share it. I mean, I would love to get people's input. I mean, this is it's dire. So I just got out of a PTA meeting, for instance, at our school, and it's gonna have an impact on our community. So
Okay, all right. So I'll share my screen because I've got it up. But... All right, so I think this is pretty rough. So resolution on expansion of Title I funding, whereas Title I provides federal funding for the education of low-income students. Title I Part A of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act. That should be ASA. Provides financial assistance to local education agencies and schools with high numbers or high percentages of children from low-income families to help ensure that all children meet challenging state academic standards. Whereas District 15 is considered to be one of the wealthier school districts in New York City, and in 2021 school year had a total of 17,432 students living in poverty, 55.8% of the district with 57.2% economic need index. Whereas District 15 has more students living in temporary housing than ever before. Whereas the borough of Brooklyn has 243,307 students identified as living in poverty, which is 73.5%. Whereas citywide, there are 798,531 students living in poverty, totally 73% of New York City school students. I don't know if this is really, therefore be it resolved that Title I.
Antonia.
Yeah. Should I not, is this just not even really ready?
It wasn't ready.
Yeah, okay, all
I
right.
was just gonna give like a high level and
Okay.
then, you know, ask people to be prepared for, you know, to just kind of pay attention to this document because we're gonna work on it during the next couple of weeks.
Okay,
Like there's still research that needs to be done. It wasn't ready for presentation. It was just
Right.
like, hey, this is happening and Arsenio is working with me on it and it's all good.
okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. We just got out of this PTA meeting where it was like, this was the top agenda item on it. So I apologize, Camille. And I'm, again, just want to amplify the work that you've done on this so quickly and rapidly responding. So really appreciate your work on it.
Thank you. I'm happy to be working together with you. It's really exciting to have a project with our Title I DPAC chair. So thank you. Thank you for all of your advocacy. I'm sure we're going to be able to get this into a votable condition very quickly. Just need to get a couple of facts checked, and I wanted to have the meeting with Principal Chan. So, okay, great. Sorry to have dropped off the call before, and now I'm on a computer with no camera and apparently have no photograph either. So sorry about that after I'm harassing everybody to keep their cameras on. So where are we now, guys?
Just the next
Antonia?
resolution.
Okay, so the next resolution is the recommendations on salaries for the position of secretary to the CEC. We still have some time, so that one actually we may as well read. And we don't need to vote on that, but I'd like to get some feedback if anybody has any. So Antonia or
I can share it.
you're going to share it? Okay.
Yeah, I can share it.
Can I have a volunteer to read it? Maybe
I can-
someone from
I
the
can-
hiring committee.
Okay, there you go. No? Okay, I'll read it. You want me to read it?
Sure, go ahead.
Recommendations on salaries for the position of secretary to citywide and community education councils. Whereas the law, Article 52A of the New York State Education Law, Sections 2590B and 2590C, New York Consolidated Laws, Education Laws, continuation of city board and establishment of community districts, establishment of the citywide councils on special education, English language learners, and high schools state as follows. Each such council may appoint a secretary pursuant to the policies of the city board who shall perform the following functions: prepare meeting notices, agendas and minutes, record and maintain accounts of proceedings and meetings, and prepare briefing materials and other related informational materials for such meetings. Each council shall be responsible for the appointment, supervision, evaluation, and discharge of the secretary. Whereas secretaries who are qualified and competent are an integral part of well-functioning CECs. Whereas it has been difficult to find qualified and competent secretaries to fill vacancies that have occurred with more frequency in the past years. Whereas while there may be many reasons for the rise in secretarial vacancies, the low starting salaries can be pointed to as the main reason. Whereas it is known that CECs in the past were able to offer candidates the highest level salary, which was then around $46,000 annually. It has been ascertained that the longest serving secretaries have been those who are earning the highest salaries. Whereas the latest salary offered to secretarial candidates is $30,000, which is near poverty levels and is not keeping up with inflation. I'll just put it, it's actually 30,085. That's actually what it is. Recent qualified candidates offered the position declined since it would have resulted in a large pay cut. Discussions as to whether the position will be unionized have not resulted in a favorable outcome. The absence of interest in supporting CEC salaries implies a lack of respect for the duties and responsibilities of the CECs that are provided for in the law. Whereas it is unconscionable that such disrespect results in deflation of secretaries' salaries toward a poverty level. Whereas at present, it has been reported that there are about 14 vacant secretarial positions out of 36 CECs. Whereas it appears that the NYC DOE is balancing the budget on the backs of low salaried staff. Whereas CECs have been forced to voluntarily deplete their budgets in order to retain or hire qualified and competent secretaries to support their duties and responsibilities. Whereas it is necessary for CECs to have a qualified and competent secretary to perform their duties and responsibilities as per the law. Therefore, be it resolved that in order to keep up with inflation, the New York City DOE immediately raised the entry salary level for the position of CEC secretary to at least 46,000, which was the normal salary in the mid 2000s. Be it further resolved that this process be established to assure that the salary keeps up with inflation without necessitating CECs to deplete their budgets. Be it resolved that CECs that have volunteered to deplete their budgets in order to raise the salary of their secretary position shall have the amount immediately reinstated in their budget. And be it further resolved that unionization of the secretary position continue to be explored, and be it further resolved that the DOE departments responsible for carrying out these recommendations will be followed up regularly so that CECs will be able to appoint and retain the most qualified and competent secretaries to support them in performing their duties and responsibilities as provided for in the law.
Thank you. So this was a resolution that was written by Teresa Arboledo, who was the former CEC president for the Citywide Council on English Language Learners. And she sometimes works with me on resolutions. So she very graciously offered to draft this, recognizing that this is a problem happening all over New York City. I think there are 15 CECs right now without administrative assistance, the Cecil being one of them. So does anybody have any comments, questions, anything at all?
I do, but Nancy raised her hand, sorry.
Go ahead,
I was just curious as to how the salary was 46,000 in the, sorry, how the salary was, where does it say in the mid 2000s?
I have no idea why there is this fluctuation. Teresa could actually speak to that because she had been around in those days on the CEC. But from what I understand, CECs were allowed to just say what they wanted the salary to be. I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but they were able to give raises when they wanted to. And so these numbers were sort of getting higher and higher.
So is that the starting salary offered? Or is that just an average of like, it is known that CECs in the past were able to offer candidates the highest level salary, which was
I guess like they had a cap on the salary. Maybe the cap was 46,000. but that the CEC had some authority of whether they wanted to offer that salary or not. And so that it wasn't necessarily the way the DOE is doing it now, where they have like this very, very low base salary that amounts to $15 an hour. And then, you know, anything above that is based on your education and your experience.
Camille, it's Anita. I just want to add that it's the same thing in the superintendent's office. The starting salary is really low.
For your
Admin.
administrative
Yep.
assistant?
Yes.
And does that person have the same title?
Their title is administrative assistant.
I noticed on some of the HR paperwork, ours said administrative assistant to the CEC. And so I didn't know if that was different than what other administrative assistants at the DOE are being offered as a base salary.
I don't think it's that much difference, but we can check
Okay.
because ours is ridiculously low also. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and it's been like almost a year that you haven't had
Right.
an AA either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Anybody else? Questions?
Is there any further work that needs to be done on this resolution, or do you feel it can be presented?
Yeah, we can just plan to vote on it at the next meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Very cool. So then the last thing on our agenda for tonight was the update on our administrative assistant hiring. We have our hiring committee, which is myself, Antonia, Yvonne, Vincent, and Nancy joined recently. Thank you. And in the last 2 weeks, we've interviewed 8 candidates. We have 2 more to interview on Thursday, waiting to hear back from a third. And one of them, since we did the interview, one of them already dropped out saying that the salary was too low. 2 of them so far were highly qualified. So we asked the DOE to vet those names. And one of them has been vetted entirely, and we're still waiting to hear back on the other one. Antonia, do you want to take over the conversation?
Sure. So I kind of just want to know from the council, what kind of steps would you like us to take on your behalf? Would you like us to conduct a second round of interviews with all of the council members present? Or should we just go ahead and press forward with making an offer, seeing if the person will accept it, and then bringing it back to the council for a vote? So I'm seeing that Nancy says to press forward. Tia wants us to press forward. Could we get some more input from the other council members? Okay, great.
Antonia, quick question.
Mm.
Have we interviewed every candidate, or we are still going through the rest of the?
We are waiting to interview 3 more.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
okay, so I see that Nakia says continue on the way that you're doing. Joseph says press forward. Vanessa says I'm okay with pressing forward. Yvonne says press forward. So you do not feel.
Did Alfred drop off the call?
Oh no, Alfred said press forward.
Oh, okay, I missed that. Oh, yes, I see. Okay.
I
sorry.
just, as a council, you do not want to do a second round of interviews as a group with yourselves present. Is what I'm just trying to make sure that we have permission to.
Antonia?
Yes.
Hi. So just to add on to my feedback, if you feel that, I mean, I'm happy to join in, but yeah, but for the sake of time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I'm considering that we obviously need an admin assistant quickly. If we do a second round, it's going to take even longer. Since you and Nancy and Camille and Alfred, is it?
Vincent,
Vincent, sorry.
Vincent and Yvonne.
Yeah. If you, as a councilman, I trust, your opinion on this and that you're actually interviewing and figuring out the best candidate. But if the council wants to do a second round, I'm happy to join in.
Mhm.
I'm just considering the time factor, I guess.
Right. Yeah, we would have to call a special session in which all of the members joined and then the top candidates were interviewed and rated.
I think maybe we can we leave it like if we decide we want to do a second round of interviews, we'll just let everybody know and everybody is welcome to attend. So that you're not like kind of mandated to a special session to attend. Because I mean, we're not entirely convinced we need to do a second round of interviews. We just wanted to kind of like let you know where we were, see what your interest was in participating more, which is not mandatory, just want to be inclusive. So, okay, I mean, I think we have a sense of where we're going.
Okay.
Vanessa, go ahead.
Did I understand this correctly, that there were 3 other people also waiting to be interviewed?
Thursday, we're going to interview 2 for certain. We're waiting for a response from a 3rd.
Okay, so my understanding right now is that there are 2 candidates that we're waiting for them to be vetoed by the Department of Education. In addition to that, there are initial interviews scheduled with 3 other people, possibly 2. So I think what Camille is saying is if we're sending these candidates to be vetoed by the DOE, I'm guessing you guys have a sense of which ones you think you're leaning towards, or are they on equal basis? Because if they're on equal basis, then I do think that it makes sense to invite, just to open it for whoever wants to attend in the CEC to be present for a follow-up. And it seems like there will be maybe at least one later on that's also joining that sort of vetoing status. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I guess if we come to Thursday and it looks like, we can't make a decision between this one and that one, and then we should do the second round. But if there's a clear favorite, push ahead. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I mean, I'll be comfortable with you guys making the decision, but just for the purpose of inclusivity, and if there is some sort of equal judgment about these candidates, then it will make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve just dropped in the chat. One of the candidates was classified already. So one of them, as far as the DOE is concerned, one of them is good to go. And so if we decided on that one, then, you know, we could just offer her the job, but we have to vote on this anyway. So like, we're going to be coming back to the whole council no matter what, and saying to you, you know, this is what we did. These are who the people are. We'll share the resumes with you. And then at some point we're going to have to vote, because we actually can't hire without the vote, because we're going to need to have a resolution to hire.
Right, but in that instance, the council members need to know they wouldn't be meeting the person. The vote would just place in a calendar meeting. It's not an opportunity to interview the person or meet the person. It's just the vote. I think Nancy, you're up.
Yeah, I just want to I know we all know this, but I know it's been a year without an AA. So I think like, just if somebody looks good, just go with it. Like could be another year.
Yeah.
Right. So it just needs to happen, basically.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we've got a plan. We just wanted everybody to understand and agree.
Okay, great. So we are now at the end of our agenda, 8:15. Somehow we ended 15 minutes early. So thank you so much to everyone, and especially to Superintendent Scott, who was really a hero today with the communication and messaging. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll just make a motion to adjourn at 8:15. Oh, Anita, did you want to say something? You're muted. You're muted, Anita.
I am always muted. Thank you all for the support that you have shown today to the schools and to me and to the principals. It's so greatly appreciated, and we keep everybody who had a bad day and was hurt in our hearts and in our prayers.
Yes, definitely. And CEC members, if you have not reached out to your liaison school yet, please do that, because this has impacted schools all across our district, not just Sunset Park. So make sure you reach out. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great night and have a wonderful spring break. And we'll see you on April 26th for our calendar meeting. Thank you so much to our interpretation team and to Steve, our FACE liaison, all of the friends that joined us tonight. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. We can stop the recording, Antonia. Antonia, can you hear me? You're muted.
Okay, I can hear you. I'm just gonna, how do I move these people?
Can you stop the recording?
I stopped the recording.
It's still showing on my side.
Oh God. All right.